everyone, welcome or welcome back. Thank you for watching. This is, as the title says, the 20 Questions book tag, which I saw probably over a month ago now by the time you see this, but Bex from Get Bookish did it around the time I was thinking about starting this channel, and I thought this is a perfect way to introduce myself, to explain a bit about who I am in general, tell you about my general taste in books, and yeah, let you know what to expect. By no means an exhaustive list of things I like, but gives you a bit of a broad sense, I think. So to get started with the questions, question 1 is how many books is too many books in a series? And to that, it depends. I'm going to try not to say it depends for every question here, but it does depend. In this case, some books, I've talked recently about Agatha Christie, I really love the Miss Fisher Murder Mysteries by Carrie Greenwood, all like short, quick, fairly standalone books. I'm totally fine with a series of 30 or 40 books then. It just means more things to return to, more content next time I want that feeling. But when it's books that are really like sequential and follow from each other, like big fantasy series type book series, there I find once it gets more than maybe 3 or 4 books, I just don't want to start at all. And that's unfortunate because I'm sure there's some series out there that I would really, really like. But because there's such long books and there's 10 of them in a series, I'm just not ready to dedicate that much time to it. Especially since once you get to 10 books in a series, I feel like the first one probably isn't necessarily even that representative of the series as a whole, so now you're thinking, okay, well if I don't like the first one, do I keep going in case it gets better? As I said, it depends. Question 2 is how do you feel about cliffhangers? Which I'm sorry, but it depends. If I'm really liking a book and I want to read the sequel anyways, cliffhanger, sure, fine, just gets me even more excited. If I didn't like the book and I was not going to continue the series, cliffhangers are annoying because it makes me feel like I have to read the next book or cheat and go read the Wikipedia page to get the resolution because I'm not interested in reading more anyway. So I guess they don't work on me. If the point of a cliffhanger is to make you want to pick up the next book, they don't have any effect on my reading preferences that way. Question 3 is hardback or paperback, to which I say neither actually. I've been reading pretty much exclusively on a Kindle for over 4 years now. I don't want to go on about this too long because I don't think I'll ever be a big enough channel for Amazon to pay me, but I first picked up a Kindle when I went on a gap year after I finished undergrad and was going to be traveling a lot, and so I didn't want to be carrying around books. And I realized that I actually just like reading them more. Because on one hand, it's so portable, I can put it in my purse, read on the go anywhere. But on the other hand, I do a lot of reading lying in bed, and I just find, lying in bed, trying to hold a paperback open in front of you, it's much easier with the Kindle. Question 4 is favorite book. It was really hard to narrow this down to one book, actually. I love a lot of different books, but I think I'm going to go with The We Free Men by Terry Pratchett for 2 reasons. First, it was my introduction to Discworld, and I love the Discworld series. Maybe someday I'll make a video in which it doesn't come up, but that is not this day. And the second reason is that the way the witches in the Tiffany Aching series approach the world has actually been really, really influential on how I approach the world and how I think about my place in the world and how I can have power in the world. Not in a Wicca magical way, but in a empowerment of self way. And I actually have a Discworld tattoo, so based on Tiffany Aching. So I think that's a pretty good indication that it's my favorite book. Question 5. Equally hard, but for different reasons. Least favorite book. And I thought long and hard about this, because I'm not usually one to have least favorites for books. If I have to give one answer though, it's Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. But I don't think it's a universal judgment, I think it's because of where I was when I read it. So I read Madame Bovary in grade 11, I think. So I was probably 15 or 16 years old. I think because I was so young, I was really judgmental about what the main character was going through, and I didn't get it, and I just didn't like how she seemed and how she came across. And I don't think she's supposed to be like a hero in her book. But I also think I'd have a lot more sympathy as a 25-year-old than I did as a 15-year-old. However, I'm not curious enough to go back and read it because, well, for one, it's the book I remember enjoying the least when I read it, so I'm not in a rush to read it again, but that's sort of a qualified least favorite, where I'm sure there's a lot of books that I like now, which if I'd read then, I also wouldn't have liked. Question 6 is love triangles, yes or no? Nah, neither yes nor no. I'm not vehemently opposed to love triangles, but I'm also not really a fan, and I find stories where the two people who are in love are trying to overcome some external issue or some external conflict in order to be together much more interesting, much more enjoyable. But like I said, I won't stop reading a book because of a love triangle. Question 7 is, fittingly, the most recent book you just couldn't finish. I have no idea why I couldn't finish this book, but Viper Wine by Hermione Eyre. I'd seen it hyped for years, I was really excited to read it, it sounded awesome, and then I started it and I got maybe 50 or 100 pages in and I just didn't enjoy it and I wasn't liking the writing. I think it's unfortunate, I've heard it's amazing, but I just couldn't get through it. Question 8 is a book you're currently reading, and that's Modifié by Sébastien Chauzu, who's a French author who's been living in Canada for a while, and this book was actually written in both French and English. I'm reading the French version, which is scary because I haven't read a French novel since I think 2012. But I really want to work on my French grammar, so when I saw this, I came across it on Instagram the other week, and it's set in New Brunswick, which is the province that I'm from. It's in French. The plot actually sounds really interesting, but I'm only like 10 pages in, so I'm not going to try and summarize it. So hopefully I get through that and do a really positive wrap-up. Question 9 is the last book you recommended to someone, and I think honestly just anything I've recommended here lately, because I don't tend to talk to people about books in real life, which is unfortunate, and why I started this channel. And if you know me in real life and you want to talk about books, please do. I have so many things to say about books. Or if you are just a viewer, please talk to me about books here too. I just want to talk about books. Question 10 is the oldest book you've read by publication date. And looking through the books I've read, I think it's The Prince by Machiavelli, which was published, as far as I can tell, in 1513. Read it in university for fun, because apparently university does strange things to your brain. Question 11 is the newest book you've read by publication date, and this one I have a more concrete answer. And that's The Majesties by Tiffany Tsao, which is amazing. I loved it. But it was a mistake to pick it up at 1 a.m. one night when I couldn't sleep, because instead of going to sleep, I rolled over and it was 6 a.m. and I'd read the entire book. It's a gripping book. If you need to stay awake, I guess I can recommend it. Question 12 is favorite author. Not to be too repetitive, but it's going to be Terry Pratchett. I love his work. I can't think of anyone else who I've read so much of and I want to reread so much. So if that doesn't make a favorite author, I don't know what does. Question 13 is buying books or borrowing books? And to that, buying books. I would use Libby or Overdrive or those like library borrowing systems for ebooks, but I've never really figured out how they work, honestly, and I don't find ebooks terribly expensive, especially since I often just wait for them to go on sale. Question 14. A book you dislike that everyone else seems to love. Which, I guess this is made to be an unpopular / controversial opinion, but The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, I just did not get. I read it back when it came out, so I guess 4-ish years ago now? Something like that? What is time? I don't know. And so like I said, it's been a while since I read it, but I just remember reading it and going, I don't get it. This is the book that everyone's been hyping. This is the book that I've seen everyone say is amazing. I didn't hate it necessarily. I just didn't think it was amazing, and everyone else seemed to. Question 15 is bookmarks or dog ears, which before I just closed my Kindle, when I actually read physical books, bookmarks. I used to have a stack of those book depository ones that they sent you with every order, and always bookmarks, never dog earing. Question 16 is a book you can always reread, which in an effort to do something other than Terry Pratchett here, Soulless by Gail Carriger, which is the first in the Parasol Protectorate series, and honestly that entire series. They're such easy rereads, they're so cozy. I think they're the book equivalent of curling up in bed with milk chocolate, and I think it's interesting that I like them so much because I don't normally go for paranormal romance, and I don't normally go for steampunk. And it's a paranormal steampunk series. So, exception that proves the rule, maybe I haven't read the right other ones, but I just love those books so much. Question 17, can you read while hearing music? Which, if you can read while hearing music with lyrics, let me know, because as far as I can tell, it's nigh on impossible. I love listening to some spa vibes, you know, just instrumental music while I read, but definitely not anything with lyrics. Question 18 is one POV or multiple POVs? Yet again, it depends. If all the POVs are ones that I enjoy reading, then I'm totally fine with multiple POVs. If, however, there is one POV which I just can't enjoy, a high likelihood that I'm just going to put the book or the series down. So, like I said, it depends. And one POV is always fine. I've never had an issue with that. Question 19. Do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? Well, I don't want to say I'm an adult because I really don't feel like I'm an adult, but I do have a full-time 9-to-5 job. I have an apartment and all of the cleaning, cooking responsibility that comes with that. I've got a social life, which under normal times I enjoy going out and seeing my friends, things like that, so I rarely read a book in one sitting. When I was a kid I used to. As I mentioned, I occasionally make the mistake of starting a gripping book at night and not going to sleep, but on the whole, multiple sittings over the course of multiple days. And even if I'm on vacation or just having a reading day, I'll usually read for an hour, do something else for a little bit, read for another hour. I don't really have the attention span for multiple 6-hour stretches. And the last question is question 20, who do you tag? Which, I think this is a pretty old tag, but if you haven't done it yet, I tag you. I would love to hear your answers. If you'd like to make a video, please let me know about it. I'd love to watch it. Or if you want to let me know down in the comments what your answers are to some of these questions. If you want to explain to me why The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is such a great book and I'm totally wrong, please tell me. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more about what I'm reading, please hit the subscribe button, and thanks for watching!